Hello, good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome. Thanks for joining us in today's webinar. I'm Priyanka, representative of AmDhan. We are associated with SAP as a partner company. We expertise in Ariba. Today, we are presenting supply chain collaboration with SAP Ariba. Just a little housekeeping before we start. Please feel free to type your queries in the question box during the presentation. We will definitely address them during question and answer session. So I welcome all the panelists and the speakers. So it gives me immense pleasure to get this opportunity to introduce the speakers of today. I would like to start with Mr. Nikhil Kamath, Business Director of SAP. Nikhil is associated with SAP for over 10 years, and it has been a very good experience of more than 23 years. He speaks for himself. So thanks for joining today.
Thank you.
Mr. Amit Patil, he is Director of AmDhan. He is passionate IT professional having more than experience of 18 years in SAP Consulting and Supply Chain Management. Thanks for joining, Amit.
Thank you.
We have Mr. Ashok Bidari. He is Partner Program Manager in SAP, having solid experience in consulting, pre-sales, and working greatly with partners.
Thank you.
We are pleased to have you here, sir. Yeah. Mr. Kaushik Kota from AmDhan. He is Solution Architect. He's associated with AmDhan for more than 7 years, and he's expert in Ariba. I welcome you to this webinar. So I think now, without further ado, I think we should turn the time over to Amit Patil. Over to you, Amit.
Thank you, Priyanka. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amit Patil. I'm a director at AmDhan, a technology consulting firm. First of all, let me thank you for taking your valuable time out for this session. We are all organizing this webinar. I really appreciate your time out today. I'm very excited to be here today to introduce our company and share our expertise in supply chain management space. At AmDhan, we have been providing SAP consulting services for more than a decade now. During this period, we have developed a deep understanding of complexities involved in supply chain collaboration space, supply chain management space, and have worked with a wide variety of customers, almost all industry verticals. We have completed several successful projects in the area of supply chain optimization, supply chain collaboration, and have helped customers globally to achieve their objectives. We are proud partner with SAP, both in India and United Kingdom. We have a strong 200 plus consulting workforce comprised of highly experienced industry and subject matter experts who are also certified almost in all SAP models. That's a bit about who we are. If we go to the next slide, please, Priyanka. Next slide, please. Thank you. Right. About our services and offerings. So at AmDhan, we offer a wide range of services and solutions to help our customers streamline their business processes, run their SAP solution effectively, and optimize the cost of running these SAP solutions. Our services broadly categorized into, I would say, business process consulting, SAP solution implementation, application maintenance support, also commonly known as annual maintenance support. We also sort of provide various cloud services, for example, migration from on-premise to in a cloud infrastructure, or if you're already in the cloud infrastructure, maintaining the cloud infrastructure and optimizing the cost of running the cloud infrastructure. We also are into products. We have jointly delivered and developed and delivered some exciting products with SAP. And these products are available on SAP's product store. Typically, these products are sort of plug and play solutions, which sort of address industry specific use cases and localization to bridge the gaps in certain standard SAP processes. There's a lot to talk about our products and services. However, considering the agenda for the session, I would like to take a pause here and thank you all again for the opportunity to introduce our company and our offerings. I look forward to answering any questions that you may have towards the back end of this session. I sincerely hope that you will find this session informative and useful to pursue your supply chain objectives. Now, without further ado, I would get right into today's topic of interest. And I would like to hand over the forum to my colleague, SAP expert Nikhil, and who will walk us through current challenges in supply chain. Thank you. Over to you, Nikhil.
Thank you, everyone. If you can go to the slide, and good morning, everyone. Okay, I'm just looking at the. Okay, perfect. So what we had done last year, and especially after the entire pandemic thing, and of course, pandemic did prioritize supply chain as an area of digitization, right? And we decided to work with Indian Institute of Materials Management and speak with some of the CPOs and the CFOs in terms of what they are looking ahead as part of the organization changes, which would be now required post-pandemic. And there were some 5 procurement challenges which were faced by organizations, and this is for completely an India study. What we will do is we'll share you the link to access this entire comprehensive report, so you can go into the details of what are the challenges and all. Here, I'm going to summarize some of the challenges, right? So one of them was out of the 5 challenges, as you can see, standardization, having a end-to-end visibility, supplier management performance. Again, something happening, a lot of things are happening manually. So whatever you use, a lot of these things, you do a lot of the materials management part on the SAP side of it. But when it comes to vendor collaboration, everything is manual. It's in paper, email, Excel, everything, right? So the data is all spread over. There is no single data available at a system which can give you analytics, information, and help you plan things, right? So this is something which has been the challenge with a lot of these organizations. And to address these challenges, a lot of these organizations in India whom we spoke with, these are large as well as mid-market companies, growing companies as well. They have now started allocating a budget for procurement transformation. Around 80% of them have said that overall IT budget what comes, we would minimum put 10% to begin with as part of the procurement transformation. And we will ensure that the procurement transformation happens as a mandate. So that is something we have seen as an ongoing process, right? And why this is required and where this is required, right? So the areas which they highlighted as part of this report typically comes into various states. Can you go to the next slide, please? So what's the current state? And this is where most of the organizations are, right? Typically, let's start with the process part of it. A typical day in the life for a vendor onboarding purchase team. Okay, now, new vendors should be onboarded. Vendor comes in and let's start the process. You send them an Excel form through emails and tell them to fill it up. Supplier responds on that Excel, sends you attachments, documents, which are again sent on multiple emails, or they are sent in a courier. Someone has to scan them. And then this entire thing is all manual. Okay, and then someone has to run the approvals. Most of the times, the approvals are off the system. They are not in SAP. They are either done on Excel's, emails. And once it's all approved, someone then goes and manually creates a vendor master in SAP. Right? Just click the next. There is an animation there. Yeah. So as you can see, if you can look at the current process, completely manual process of vendor onboarding. Vendor discovery is manual. If I want to search for new vendors for certain categories and all, again, I go to Google, I go to B2B site like IndiaMart and many other things. Again, I have to then ensure that I take the contact number, and then send an email to that vendor, and maybe they may respond, right? But then I still don't know whether these are authentic vendors, right? Because until there is no way before I can get their information to know, or at least get some insights that is this an authentic vendor? Maybe I have 100 vendors I found out of this category. So instead of sending to 100 vendors, can I get some insights that maybe 5 and 10 out of them are authentic? So that is something which still is something, a challenge which a lot of the companies brought about, right? All the information is manual. So what happens is, once you do it for the one time, next part is, what if these information changes? Let's say the certification information changes, financial information changes. Now doing it with one supplier is fine, but doing it with 1,000 suppliers in a manual way, it's absolutely impossible, right? And most of the times what you find is the vendor master is not up to date. It is the contact who are there are already left the organization and cannot be updated, because all these things are manual in process, right? And this is where the tracking of the vendor, in fact, what has come up, and as a part of the report also highlighted, sustainability is important. So when you are working with your customers and supplying goods to them, customers are asking, especially in the B2B segment, customers are asking that, are your vendors sustainable? Can you show us? Because end of the day, everyone in the supply chain is accountable for the supply chain sustainability, right? So even if your customer has ensured that you are sustainable, but they would also like to know whether your suppliers are also sustainable, right? Because then it impacts the overall brand value also. So that is something which we have seen as a manual process. Can you go to the next slide? So this is on the vendor onboarding process. Now let's say once I onboard the vendor, now I have to negotiate with the vendor for those categories and all, right? And I have to send an RFQ. Again, even if you today are in SAP, still the RFQ transaction can be created in SAP, but sending that RFQ is primarily a manual process through Excels, emails, and everything, which means, again, you send it to 5 vendors, 5 vendors will respond on those, each of those Excels or emails. You again have to consolidate that manually and then prepare a comparative in SAP. Again, approvals are manual out of the system. And then once all approvals are done, someone has to again manually create a purchase order, or the requisition gets converted to purchase order, right? So that's again an entirely manual process in terms of how you do it. Again, you cannot utilize techniques like auctioning techniques. If you want to run reverse auctions and all, you cannot use it. If you want to do envelope bidding, sealed envelope bidding, for example, there is a capex to be bought, and you want to have a techno-commercial team available there. The technical team will only open the technical envelope. The commercial team will only open the commercial envelope. This is today happens, but this is on paper. It's a sealed envelope which comes on paper, and then someone opens it up and all. How about taking this online so that every visibility is there? Second important thing what we are hearing on this part is, I want a history of how I was procuring or sourcing or negotiating certain categories previously, because maybe new people come into your organizations and then they're lost. They don't know how it was procured. They are dependent on you to give them a knowledge transfer. Again, it consumes your time, their time. Why not have a repository? What if the another scenario is you are managing a particular category today, you want to manage another category? Again, the same challenge. Everything is manual. You cannot go into the system and just figure out what was the last RFQ, or how it was bought, how is the total landed cost calculated, who are the vendors, what type of pricing they give, who are the vendor contacts whom you interact with. Entire thing is offline, right? And this again becomes a challenge. And then once you have the PO created, you send that PO in a PDF form or an email form to the vendors. And then again, you have to call up the vendor to confirm when they are shipping the order. And once the order is shipped, again, that information is either on an email or on an Excel. It is not entered into the SAP system, right? Now, the challenge with this, and especially with manufacturing organizations who do MRP runs and all, order confirmation, today the MRP run happens based just on open POs, okay? Which is again a wider story. There is a little bit of less accuracy, because you don't know how many of those open POs the orders have been confirmed, because it's no way captured in the SAP system. And what about the in-transit inventory? Again, it is no way captured in the system till the actual GR is done, or the trucks arrive at your place, right? So which means MRP still happens on an open PO. What if you are able to do a finer level of MRP run, which helps you manage your inventory control and planning better, maybe by looking at order acknowledgements in the system, or by looking at what is in transit inventory, right? So that is something which is still coming up as one of the bigger challenge, which has been shared by a lot of the customers. Can you go to the next slide? Now, this is where the biggest challenge is happening is on the invoice processing, on the accounts payable side of it. Everything comes on paper. Though Government of India has now said we want to move away from paper, paper is not required, e-invoicing. Yes, over a period of time, maybe 3-5 years around, you may see everything e-invoiced. But yes, India is undergoing a change. We still have paper because in the supply chain, in the field, the traffic police or whoever is the border, cross-border flow which happens, still sometimes ask for paper. But over a time, it is going to happen where everything is going to be paperless. And that again is an important factor on the sustainability aspect. From a regulatory perspective, everything is e-invoice now. So today we still take paper, enter it in the system. Someone tries to do an OCR, which is again not a foolproof format, because OCR can work only on structured invoice or papers. What about handwritten? We still have 10 to 20% of the invoices done by handwritten, because these are services or smaller vendors who still write on handwritten. Handwritten doesn't work on OCR. So still someone has to manually enter it. And once they manually enter it in the system, then they realize, oh, this PO number is wrong. There is no PO, there is nothing. So everything happens after the fact. What if there is a system which can do this before the fact, before even it gets into your SAP system, before even it comes to you? That is something which a lot of our customers are talking about, right? And then you don't even have to have an approval workflow, because whatever is coming to your system is already pre-validated. It is PO compliant as well as GST compliant. Can this be the scenario? That's a lot of customers are asking for this, right? Just click the next button. So those, some of the challenges what have happened click next, is invoice errors, missed discounts. So a lot of times what happens is you may have payment terms which are saying that I may go with a net 45-day payment, but if I pay you in net 30 days, you give me a 1% discount. So that is a possibility. But most of the times by the time the paper invoice gets processed, these discounts may be missed, right? Or maybe in future scenario, if you do away with paper, you look at e-invoicing, you can start introducing this payment terms with discounting mechanism, where we say maybe if I pay you in net 15 days, you give me 2% discount, right? So that's another cost reduction initiative which can be brought in, cost savings initiative which can be brought in. Cycle time to process the invoice, and especially with MSME vendors, we know that government is now saying by end of 2023, any company having 1 crores turnover and above should mandatorily file the IRN into the IRP portal, which means your entire MSME base, most of the MSME base is going to come under this. Already from 1st of January, 5 crores and above has come into picture. Now there is going to be a lot of challenges here. How do you ensure that and you control whatever comes in is clean for you, right? So that is something which is coming as a big issue, because now the next year is going to be very challenging in terms of invoice processing, because a lot of MSME vendors are going to be part of this mandatory IRN generation system. Another important thing, apart from they being mandatory, MSME payment has to be done in 45 days, which otherwise they can charge you interest rate, right? That's another liability which may come in. So that's where companies are looking at how do I move away from paper invoice to an e-invoice, which means on day one itself, when I receive the e-invoice, I'm pretty sure that it's a PO and GST compliant. I'm pretty sure that I can pay them in 45 days, right? Because I don't have to worry about compliance, three-way matching, and GST matching and everything, right? So these are some of the challenges. Now, how customers want this entire manual process to be transformed? Let's go to the next slide, right? So when we want to look at a fully automated vendor collaboration system, this is how it will look like, okay? Sorry. So this is your ERP. Today, work is happening, everything in silo. Whatever goes out of this ERP comes back into this ERP is all manual. It's Excel, PDF, emails. When you want to automate this process, you put in a vendor portal on top of it. The orange boxes are nothing but the vendor portal, okay? And the vendor portal can have multiple, if you see the vendor portal has boxed into different processes. Vendor registration is one part of the process we spoke about, onboarding, approval, and automatic vendor master creation back in your SAP system. RFQ processing, 2 envelope biddings, auctions, reverse auctions, forward auctions, total cost comparisons where you have warranties and capex and all. So all that is something. Import versus local vendor comparison, multi-currency comparison, all that is something which you want to have it in the system. This is where the sourcing part comes into picture. We are going to go into deep dive into some of the solutions which have been the top priority for a lot of our mid-market growing companies to automate at least 80 to 90% of their processes, right? And then the purchase order going to them, they receiving this. It can be a materials purchase order, services purchase order confirmation coming back to your SAP, ASNs or service entry sheet coming back to you, your GR information or approved service entry sheet going to them. They create the invoice. This need not be the flow. This invoice can happen during the ASN itself as per India rule. But if you have global operations in a lot of global countries, if you also have global countries, and you can use the solution for global countries as well, you primarily can have a GR based invoice also in those countries, right? And this invoice, while the vendor is creating the invoice, it is connected to the government's GRP portal by default. So this is a pre-built integration, which means the MSME vendors I spoke about can generate the IRN, or you can validate the IRN from this system itself. And then the invoice comes to you, which is also PO compliant, shipping compliant, and GST compliant. So it gets parked, and then it's frankly, you just have to manually check when the actual paper invoice or the information comes at your place. You approve it. There is discount mechanism also, where if some vendor wants to say, can you pay me early and I will offer you a discount because I'm in need of funds. You can initiate the discount, bill discounting. It's a feature which is included. And then once the payment is done, the remittance advice is sent to the vendor, right? From a vendor perspective, this entire thing which they are doing, this entire portal is free of cost to them, right? No charge to them. So this is how and of course, Kaushik is going to talk in detail about each of this. Next slide, please. Sorry, can you go back? So what we have done is, we have modularized this. So you can pick and choose what area you want to automate first. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3 are something which is there, are modularized. So it's not that you need to take everything. Again, whatever is the biggest area of challenge, you can start with that, right? So that's how it is. Now let's go to the next slide. And as part of the discussion, as I said, as part of that report which Indian Institute of Materials Management did, procurement and finance priorities in India were primarily around agility in speed of doing business, sustainability, digital transformation, risk reduction, team development. As I said, a lot of this history of the data of the previous history, and also team the knowledge development is also there. Cost reduction still there, increase in supply base. I now need to find new vendors, local vendors, right? Can I do a vendor development and discovery and development here, right? By getting an access to a vendor base also. Supply chain base reduction, maybe I can consolidate my suppliers, right, in terms of certain things. So all these are priorities, and most of these priorities are addressed by 2 of these modules, sourcing and PO to invoice collaboration, which is e-tendering and PO to invoice collaboration, which Kaushik is now going to talk more in detail about it, right? So over to Kaushik.
Thank you so much for the brief, Nikhil, and the insights as well. As Nikhil informed, the today modules we are going to discuss are SAP Ariba sourcing and also the SAP Digital Supplier Network, which is the vendor collaboration portal. Particularly the SAP Ariba sourcing, it provides different integration scenarios that supports the source to pay to automate the purchase order creation or the outline agreement creation. In current world, the source to pay process, as Nikhil mentioned, it's all happening in manual emails or the email attachments or the meetings with the suppliers. In this particular process, there is a lot of compliance issues, there is a lot of security issues, and also the mismanagement of data and errors are increasing in the sourcing world. To make that digitized, this Ariba sourcing is providing a beautiful tool which is user experience, which is very user friendly. And we are going to go into a short demo to discuss more benefits regarding this. And the next one is the Digital Supplier Collaboration Portal, which is going to be covered by my colleague Ashok from SAP. And this digital supply network will focusly talks about on vendor collaboration on from procure to pay process, and where the purchase order or the scheduling agreements are getting transmitted to suppliers, and how the suppliers can interactively work with buyers and collaborate and consolidate all the documents. Could you please go on to the next slide, please? The sourcing process, just a little bit before. Yes, thank you. I'm going to talk on a high level of how the sourcing process will be looking in Ariba sourcing. So if we can see the fourth one, where we numbered 4, the requirement can come from anywhere in this in the departments. For example, an unsourced requisition can be available, or the requirement came up by some spend analysis reports that been identified from the last year's spends, and or there is a sourcing request that we want to do for our IT that unsourced requisition. The starting step to create the Ariba is Ariba sourcing request is converting that requisition into the RFQ. And this RFQ, due to this robust integration capabilities that we have in our Ariba sourcing, this RFQ will be getting automatically transferred to Ariba, which is the middle line, and it will create an event. So in this particular event, the buyer or the purchaser can configure what is the bidding rules for this particular event, and who can view and what can be viewed by the participants. And next step, we have the create posting, where the SAP Ariba sourcing provides one more additional module, which is called Ariba Discovery, where purchasers or the buyers, they can post this particular requirement into the source into the library of suppliers, where SAP Ariba network currently holding 4 million suppliers, and which is all qualified suppliers. So we can post into that particular portal, and we can receive the responses from the new suppliers without any manual work, and we can easily get that done in a couple of steps. So that's where the SAP Discovery, where supplier binoculars is displaying. And once, if the discovery is not required, of course we can move on to the next part, which is the internal approvals. So before publishing, if we want to go through a couple of approvals to capture what are the other specifications that we need, is every team agreed to go through the sourcing to put that streamlined process into the flow. This will be we can configure the approval flow into this particular process. After the approvals are done, the publish will be triggering. The publish will be happening by the buyer, and from there, that particular document will be going to SAP Ariba network, which is the vendor portal. So in this vendor portal, when at the time of clicking of publish, the email will be automatically triggering to how many suppliers we have selected. There is no manual intervention required to drop an email, sending an attachment. It's not required to be done by the manual efforts. And once supplier receive the event, that event will read when the event is going to start, what is it going to be. And there are certain rules that we can set up, and we can also configure our company logos and all other stuff. Moving on to the next, we have the supplier placing bid. So in this stage, we can clearly see how vendor is collaborating with the buyer digitally, where a supplier placing the bid. The supplier have multiple options to place the bid. They can respond through email. They can respond through mobile app. They can respond through the portal. Now, once supplier places the bid, it will come back to the purchaser, where a purchaser can monitor what is the costs have been submitted, and how the auction or how the event is going on. And then we'll move on to the grade and evaluate supplier. So after the bidding is completed, we can see from different currencies, from different teams, different suppliers, how and what type of cost has been submitted, and the data conversions, the formulas, everything will be configured before only. So it would be a beautiful screen to see the differences between each and every supplier and their specifications. To take the easy decision on who is the L1 for this particular items. Moving on to next, we have the supplier award. In this particular step, we can create scenarios to take the L1 supplier, which can automated. So every time the user don't have to go through each and every line and select the suppliers. We can create a scenario based on the business requirement, or user can select the supplier award. Once the awarding of the supplier is completed, the email notifications will be automatically triggered to the supplier that he is the awarded bid for this particular line items. And in parallelly, there will be one more trigger to SAP will happen, which creates a purchase order or the outline agreement based on the requirement. Now moving on to next, we have the event analysis, where we after the project is completed, there would be reports that can be taken from this particular event, and those can be attached to the purchase orders for future references in SAP. And follow-up event is basically if there is a purchase order has been created, we can use the DSN, and we can publish that into the vendor portal, and when the vendor portal process will be starting after that. So this is in short about how the sourcing process works and what it is giving as to the purchasers and the suppliers. Please move on to the next slide, please. We'll jump into a demo right now. I'll probably share my screen.
Hello everyone. Hi Kaushik, thanks. Before you start the demonstration, I would like to take a few seconds and request attendees to respond the poll question we have. The first question is on the screen. Do you have a vendor portal? Kindly address your answer over here. Thank you everyone. Kaushik, over to you. Thanks for waiting.
You're on mute, Kaushik, if you're speaking.
I'm so sorry. I got it now. Thank you. Thank you so much for notifying. Yes. So in this particular scenario, we are using one of the ID who is a purchaser in this particular Western organization, and we are logging into the S4HANA to identify what are the materials that are getting created without the contracts, and what we can do to create a contract, a best contract out of the suppliers. So this is the homepage of S4HANA Cloud, the Fury apps, but this particular process can happen in the on-premise as well. So in this particular page, we can monitor what are the materials that are getting created without the contracts, and we can filter out based on different filter criterias. And here I am using one of the criteria, one of the material group to identify what are the materials that is being created without the contracts. So when user clicked on go, we can see the map visual where we can easily identify, okay, which item is really creating. And also we can see in the below how many PO items has been created and the total amount that has been created in a certain time of span. So the user selects the particular line, particular material, and user click on the create RFQ. By filling of a couple of mandatory fields like purchase organization and the quotation deadline, and also the follow-on document that we want to create. In this particular scenario, I want to create a quality contract, so I'm selecting the MK. And once I select the contract, we can see here the all the materials that I wanted to be created in RFQ that I selected before, those are automatically populated, and the requested quantity will be populated by the user, and the delivery date as well. Moving on to next. So by clicking on save, I can see this particular RFQ number that has been generated, and we can say the status in preparation. And also it is moved into approval due to the approval workflows. And now I am going back to the Ariba sourcing. So as I said, the RFP process is the starting process, and now it is going back to Ariba source. It is going to Ariba sourcing as a starting page. So this is the Ariba sourcing, and these are the dashboards that are configured for this particular user, which is Hillary. And we can see we can customize this based on the user preferences, and also there are a lot more dashboards available from the reports that we generally use. So this type of user-friendly interface is provided by Ariba sourcing to take quick actions to respond on the notifications. So here we can search with the RFQ number that is created. And when we go inside, it's not a mandatory to search with RFQ number. We can we can search with the creation date. We can search with the purchasing group. There are a couple of other ones as well that we can do. So once I click on the project, we can actually see what is the overview, what is the start date, what is the due date that we maintained against this particular RFQ. And in this this is called the sourcing request. Before we go into the event, this is the sourcing request that it creates in Ariba, and this sourcing request can be streamlined and also categorized based on the departments. And if it is happening for the direct materials, we can configure the tasks to be in different way. The approvals can go to different people. If it is happening for the indirect materials, the template can be configured based on the requirement, and the approvals can go to the indirect material representatives. In this scenario, so here there is a task called prepare sourcing request. That means, are we ready with the sourcing request? If we are not, we can say mark started, which will go through our team, and our team can input their details to complete the sourcing request. Right now, I'm just going with the mark complete, and here there is an approval flow, which is currently we are not configuring due to the time, but if it is already configured, it will automatically trigger. So now we can see the sourcing project document has been created, and this is the event page, and this is the overview of the event, and we can see what is the name of the option or RFP that we are doing, and we can see whether the project, full project or quick project. We are selecting quick project. That means we are only going to run one event, but we can do multiple runs, but we can only run RFP, auction, forward auction, or reverse auction. And the event type is where we define which type of event we want to run. Is it a request for proposal, or is it a auction? And there are a couple of more fields which I cannot discuss due to the time constraint. But just to touch up, if any fields has been filled here, these will be really helpful to get the reports on this events level. So below we have the templates. So here I'm selecting a request for proposal template, but it can be anything. It can be based on direct material template with a certain pricing conditions. It can be indirect services with the lot system. Those type of templates can be created, and this is where we will choose which template has to be created for this option. So here we can see on the left hand side, we have 5 pages that needed to be confirmed without completed before publishing this. So the first one is the bidding rules. So in this bidding rules, as the name mentioning here, the user keep the start date, when exactly the start date is going to be, and also the due date, how much duration, or there is a fixed date also. We can enable after 1 month this is going to be completed, not even in the days. So this can be in the days, hours, or months. And just to touch upon the reminders part, I know the businesses, I know that people will send multiple reminders to get the quotations and also to get the responses from the participants / suppliers. Here, Ariba provides a reminder option that can be easily utilized by every user. And by clicking on edit button, they can configure when exactly the reminders has to go and how many reminders has to go. Is it per every hour? Is it only at the time of every day? Those all can be configured by the user based on the preferences. And these also can be defaulted based on the business requirement by the consultants. And there are some bidding rules that we have that we can configure, but I'm not going to touch up on most of them, but I can cover this. If we look at a required participant to give a reason for declining the bid, if one of the suppliers are declining the bid or declining to participate, they need to provide a reason why exactly they are doing it. So this can be enabled by the user. So the suppliers has a mandatory step to do. And we can see the currency rules where Nikhil touched upon on the current challenges, how the international team will be sending in their currencies and how our team will be doing conversions in manually using the Excels and other methods. But that can be avoided using this option by selecting the user. By selecting yes, the suppliers would be able to submit the bids in their own currencies. And below is the market feedback. We can set up the ranks for the suppliers. We can set up we can set up some rules like who can see the responses that is being submitted by the suppliers as well to complain for the compliance issues. And moving on to the next page, which is the suppliers. Here we are inviting which suppliers are going to participate in this particular bid. And here we are searching with Digistar, which is a vendor name, but we can search with multiple things. We can search with the approved commodities. Like if we are searching for a pen, we can select a pen in this particular commodity, and it will provide all the approved vendors from the ERP, and all the master data is coming from the ERP only. Or if we want to invite a new supplier who is not available in ERP, we can click on this create new participant button. By filling couple of fields, mandatory fields like organization name, username, user email ID, we can create a new vendor in Ariba, but it won't be creating in SAP ERP. But it would be useful for suppliers to participate in this bid without having in our system. So I'm searching for the Digistar, and I'm selecting the Digistar, and I clicked on OK. So we can see this particular vendor has been added into the event. Yeah, moving on to the next, which is the content page. So this is where we can see all the line items or all the specifications that we need to define against the line items. And here we can see some of the pricing conditions like discount amount, such as amount, discount percentage, and also the quantity. All these fields can be formalized. These can be calculated using formulas that Ariba provides, and we can showcase the total price and the extended prices. So this is all automated, and we can see all the data is directly coming from RFQ through the integration, and the material group and RFQ ID all is coming with the purchaser. Just has to review once, and if he's okay with it, he can the purchaser can carry on doing the publishment. So in this scenario, I'm going inside this line item A200 bike chain, and I'm here. We can see every line item don't have to be displayed by the participants in couple of scenarios. So Ariba provides these features like visible to participant, yes or no, and is it needed to be displayed to all the participants or only certain participants. So if we see in the below, there is a digit-star. If I add one more vendor, if I want this line item to be go to only certain vendors, this also be done by the user. And this don't have to be from the screen level. So there is a Excel import option as well. So here there is an Excel import option. By using this Excel import option, if there are 50 line items and we have 10 suppliers, we can easily match which line item has to go to which suppliers using the Excel, and we can upload back into the system. So we don't have to do 100 steps in the screen. So this is the last page, which is the summary. And after the review of this summary, if everything looks good, Hillary is going to publish the event. And now we can see you have published your event. You can monitor the event activities or work on other tasks. So now the process of supplier will be starting. The supplier received an email saying, okay, the event has been created by Best Run, and this is going to be start in a couple of minutes. And now I'm going into logging as a supplier. We can see that admin at the Digistar. And so this supplier portal is free of cost, and suppliers can join in. And when they join, the suppliers will get the supplier toolkit, which contains how this Ariba network is working in very user-friendly manner. Just to touch upon what this vendor collaboration portal is providing, we can see a couple of dashboards on from time basis, and also we can see a couple of tiles that are available, the tabs on different status, how many new purchase orders received, how many orders are ready to confirm, how many orders are ready to ship, and and also if there is invoices, of course, the invoices. Now because we are talking about Ariba sourcing, this Ariba network contains different portals as well. That is free for the suppliers. We can see there are leads, proposals, and the contracts. So right now we are going into the proposals, which is Ariba sourcing. So in Ariba sourcing, this is the landing page of the Ariba sourcing, and for the suppliers. And suppliers can see different status of this particular event. Open means the ones that are newly generated. Pending selection is the bidding is completed. The bidding time is completed, but the supplier has not been awarded. No supplier has been awarded. And completed means the event has been completed by selecting the vendor from buyer. Now we went into inside this particular project, which is the event, and in this event the suppliers can see what line items are required for this particular purchaser, for this particular Best Run organization, and also they can see the quantity and also when it is going to be started and when it is going to be ended. If we need to hide until the bid starting, that particular configuration also available back in the Ariba sourcing buyer side when we are configuring the rules. So here there is a standard rules that need to be confirmed by the supplier, and we can so here the supplier has an option to select which lots or which line items that they are okay to submit the bid. So they can select only those line items, and they can click on submit selected slots. Now the actual bid, we can see the time is running on the right hand side. It's 2 days and 5 hours. So that is always be there. And now the user is entering the price. User also and once they click on submit and a response, they can see the total cost and extended price calculation based on the calculation that we configured in the template level in Ariba sourcing at purchaser side. Also, supplier can compose a message which will get transferred to against in that event. and also an email will be triggering to purchaser without any manual, without going into the email application. Now the submit has been bidded. We can see that your response has been submitted. Thank you for participating in the event. Now we are back into Hillary's screen, who is the purchaser, and we can see that this is the project that we have created, and we can see the data submitted by the Digistar, and we can see what is the total price, extended price, and we can see how much they have quoted on each and every unit, and also they can and also we can see who is the lead bid at this position. So if we have multiple vendors, by viewing of these two options, one is mentioning this is L1, and the second one, this is the lead bid. So by looking at these, we can easily take who is the lead bid that is available against this particular line item. If we have 10 suppliers and 10 suppliers are submitting, we can always see in this particular view, or we can just download an Excel format from this actions tab. Now I'm going to award the Digistar. So this is the award page. I'm saying I already said in the RFQ, I already selected I want to create a MK contract, so that is already available here. And we can see A200, this is the line item. And when I click on this particular option, who I want to award, it will showcase me how many suppliers I have that have bidded against this line item, and who is the lead bid for this. And we can see the bidding costs and the bidding terms on this side. And now I have selected the Digistar, and I'm submitting for the award. Once awarding is done, the purchaser has the ability to select, do we need to send email to only the awarded participants, or we want to send email to non-awarded also, and we can send customized award emails every time, or we can configure it at the time of the project kickoff. And now the awarding is completed. We can see the status has been changed to completed status. From here, what we are trying to do is so now so for this material, we know Digistar is the supplier, and we are going to create a contract from here by clicking on actions and clicking on send quotes to external system. With this couple of clicks, we would be able to successfully send the data to external system. We would be able to create the contract in the SAP ERP. So now I am back to my Fury screen, which is SAP ERP, and I'm going into the source of supply management, and I can see my particular requisition, which is the 916. Just a second. Yeah. Yes. So here we can see the contract has been published, and we can see that the document flow as well, which documents, what is the quotation, and what is the purchase contract it has been created in SAP ERP. Yeah. Could you please share the PowerPoint, please? So this is just on a high level what Ariba sourcing is providing to the purchasers, but there are more benefits than there are more features than what I showcased here. And just to touch upon what are the business benefits that we currently get from Ariba sourcing, is it's basically one-step gateway to for the spend control to get the reports and to create a strategic sourcing in the future. And it's a fast information transfer by clicking on the publish button. The supplier is able to receive the emails, and also the supplier is receiving the data in his particular vendor collaboration portal. And also we have the supplier discovery, which is as I explained, it contains 4 million suppliers. So that means that means for the posting that we did, we definitely going to get that particular commodity suppliers responses in the bidding time that we are expecting. And also by eliminating the faxes and also the email attachments and the mails and the mobiles, we are eliminating the total error, total mistakes that anyone can do, and we are digitizing the platform in very user friendly manner. And the last and final, of course, it is going to improve the efficiency, and which actually reduces the cycle time of source to pay in way better than what is currently happening. Please go on to the next slide. So now from here, so I have showcased the contract creation process. So in this scenario, let's say we have the purchase order creation. This digital supply network enables the procure to pay process from here. Could you please go on to the next slide? So SAP DSN is a natural extension. It's available standardly in Ariba, and this can be extended to vendor collaboration portal, which is Ariba network in very less time of implementation. And also this particular suppliers can access this Ariba network, which is the vendor collaboration portal, in different platforms, in mobile, in browser, and also they can integrate with their ERP system to directly submit or post from their ERP system. And as I mentioned, it does has more than 4 million suppliers database into this. Now I'm going to hand over the panel to Ashok. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kaushik. That was great presentation and demo as well. I believe people who have joined here have understood the RFQ process and how it will help to make it a digitized process for them, right? So let's move on to Digital Supplier Network. As Kaushik explained, it's a portal which will help you to collaborate with your vendors or the supplier outside of your four wall of ERP, right? So how do you collaborate with your suppliers electronically or digitally over the supplier network is what we are going to see here. So as you see here, this supplier network or digital supplier network is natively integrated with your SAP S/4HANA, right? We have 120 plus business rules, which will help you to automate most of your manual processes, right? It will help you to avoid all those errors that you usually get when you are submitting an invoice, or when your supplier submitting the invoice, or a payment documents that come in, or a purchase orders that come in, right? And most of all, it's a free to join for your suppliers as a part of standard account supplier, right? So they can join and start transacting on your direct material collaborations, right? Direct order collaboration. And for all those who want to take more advantage of the network, there are 70 plus process documents or different documents that can be transacted over the network, right? So they can upgrade themselves and then use these functionalities or transact other documents over the network, right? So today, for this demonstration, what we'll do is one direct order collaboration and end-to-end process, wherein we'll start creating an purchase order in S/4HANA, and then we'll see how supplier receives that purchase order and do an order confirmation, do an advance ship notice, and post an advance ship notice, how an S4, from an S4 side, we'll create an inbound delivery and a goods receipt. And then we'll see how suppliers can see that receipt. And then based on those, that document will create an invoice, right? So as also Nikhil mentioned, from an India perspective, you don't have to wait for an ASN or goods receipt to come in, right? You can create the invoice. So we have a business rules that can be managed to create those kind of scenarios as well, right? So once the invoice has come in, there's a payment proposal or a discounting that can be applied, and we will see how discounting can be applied on a particular invoice, and how our buyers can accept those and release the payment to the suppliers, right? So all this process is digital collaboration over the network, and we'll see how easy it is to address those pain points which Nikhil mentioned, right? So too much of paper, too much of cost, missed savings. We'll try to address these pain points in this demonstration by for an order collaboration, right? So let me share my screen and we'll show the process in the system. Can see my screen? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So we'll start with creating the purchase order collaboration. As I mentioned, this is for a DSN Digital Supplier Network collaboration. So creating a purchase order at S/4HANA or at your ERP instance doesn't change. So we are just going to create the purchase order as usual, right? So I'm logging into an S/4HANA system and creating the purchase order. So to create a purchase order, let me start filling in some of the header information and then add a line item, right? So by adding a line item, I'm providing all the parameters that are required for creating the purchase order or the line item, right? Here we provided the quantity, price, and I'm making sure that the 2 tick marks for goods receipt based on invoice verification and invoice receipt checkpoints are clicked, right? And further, we'll add the tax codes and tax jurisdiction and make sure that tax information, other information are filled in. The one thing which is important here while creating the purchase order is from the confirmation perspective, we need to acknowledge, tick the acknowledge required, right? So this will help to make sure that both order confirmation and your shipping notice come into the come into S/4HANA system, and then you can verify once the order has been completed, right? Right. So I've completed all the details of the line item, and then I'm creating the purchase order. So once the order is sent, we see that a purchase order number has been created. 4841, that's the purchase order that has been created and sent to the supplier over the supplier network. And now we'll see how suppliers can log into the supplier network and access the particular purchase order and process it. So I'm logging in as a supplier and into the supplier network. The supplier network which was showed by Kaushik is also part of the digital supplier network, right? So if a supplier has both transactional as well as responding to the proposals, he will have particular dashboards that he is working on, right? So this is the dashboard where you can do transactions for your purchase orders and other documents of SAP Ariba or from an S/4HANA, right? So if you see the dashboard, you see that there are different widgets that are available. You can see the purchase orders or the invoice aging. There is a mobile app that can be downloaded and then can be used, and where I think Kaushik mentioned initially that you can use different platforms for transacting your documents, right? Mobile app is one of them, right? And then you have a visibility of different statuses of orders or purchase orders and invoices that are coming in, right? And also as a supplier, you might be transacting with multiple customers. So you can see all those customers in one page, and then we'll have a different dashboard for each of customers, with the one user ID and password only, right? So now what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and do the order confirmation for an order created at S/4HANA, right? So this is the order, and then as you see, order confirmation, shipping notice, and invoices can be created based on the business rules that I mentioned. These all can be activated or inactivated. For an Indian scenario, you don't have to have the shipping notice before creating the invoice, right? So that can be managed as well with the help of business rules. So now let's go ahead and create or confirm the order, provide the details which are required, like dates and other things that are required on the header and line item level, and confirm the order and submit it. Once you confirm the order, reference document is created. So if you note down here, a reference document is created by doing an order confirmation. Similarly, let's go ahead and do the shipping notice as well, and provide the required details for confirming the shipping notice, right? So there are a lot of fields that you can see which can also be used for your reporting purposes, both at header level and line level, right? So I'm going to submit the shipping notice for this one, and as you see, a shipping notice or a reference document is created for shipping notice as well. So let's note down these two, and then I will see, go back to S4HANA and then see the documents available in the S4HANA system, right? So let's go ahead and search for that particular purchase order and go into the line items and then see if these two documents have come in over here, right? So as you see, both order confirmation and shipping notices are available here. So we had, while creating the purchase order, we had clicked on a button of acknowledge the receipt, right? So because of that, we are able to see both the documents available over here. Now, once we review the documents, let's go ahead and review the shipment. We can go ahead and create a goods receipt as a buyer and search for that particular purchase order, look for the line items that are available and post the goods receipt of that particular purchase order, right? Once the purchase order is shipping notice is created, we get a reference document number for this one as well. And this document will be seen by a supplier once the goods have been received and goods receipt document has been created, right? Now, we will go back to the supplier and then see the document that has been created as a part of goods receipt and post the invoice for this particular purchase order, right? We'll come back to the login to the supplier portal, and we'll see that that purchase order has been moved to a part of creating an invoice, right? So, and then let's search for that particular order, and then as you see, reference document of the goods receipt reference document is also being mentioned over here. All these documents can be seen on the order history by a supplier, that what is the process status of this particular purchase order, right? So let's go ahead and create the invoice. So while creating the invoice, it's a PO flip, right? All the information that is there on the PO will be replicated on the invoice, right? So whether it's your header level or line level information will be replicated back onto your invoice, right? And as Nikhil mentioned about IRN document, your tax information, once you fill in this invoice, all that information will go to the tax information will be created in your tax portal as well from an India context perspective, right? So we are providing the required information over here from a header level and also from the line item level, right? And then submit the invoice. Submit the invoice, and also similarly an invoice document has been created over here on that particular purchase order. Now review the updated purchase order. So we have created the invoice, and then let's go back to your purchase order and then see what is the process flow. The from a buyer side as well, we'll have a complete visibility of a purchase order that has been created earlier, right? So if you go to line item and check the process flow, we see the purchase order, goods receipt, and supplier invoice that has been created, right? Now the next part is, once the invoice has been created, let's check if we get a if we could able to do some savings as well with the help of dynamic discounting, right? So let's try to initiate the dynamic discounting in the supplier network. So the dynamic discount can be configured at the buyer level, right? So for each supplier, you can go ahead and configure the dynamic discount and make sure that for invoices which can be paid 60 days or 45 days, how can we put the discounting to those invoices and then reduce, make sure that get maximum output by minimizing that discounting terms, right? So in this one, so as you see here, the invoice that has been created 4841 is eligible for payment offer, right? And then once we select that, it's early payment discount is offered for that one. So if you see 2.96% discount has been offered And then, so your net payment as a supplier, you have to pay 2911, which was earlier 2940, right? So if you see that, so for each days, I mean, as and when you reduce the days, the discount will reduce, and then you can pay your supplier as per your requirement, right? So you can choose any of the configured dates and accept the early payment offer for as per your convenient and as per your supplier's convenient, right? So once you accept it and submit it, you see that the your invoice amount has been changed, and this invoice amount will be sent back to your buyer, right? So now it depends on the buyer whether they want to accept that discount or they would like to go back to supplier and then negotiate further, right? So let's go back to S4 and then see and accept this particular discount that has been submitted by the supplier, right? So we'll select the invoice 4841, right? And then accept that particular discount that has been offered by the supplier, right? So if you see, and then the payment has been scheduled and will be paid as per the latest invoice amount, right? So now what we'll do is, once we accept the discount, we'll go ahead and review the payment information. Or if you see, they have accepted, the buyer organization has accepted the invoice and then has been paid, and you as a supplier, you can see the paid status. So as an end-to-end process, both buyers and suppliers will have a visibility on their purchase order. This will help to reduce the manual effort. This will help to reduce the errors that both buyers and suppliers face during the submission of the invoice or creating the purchase orders. So they can reduce that, right? The manual effort can be reduced. You can address the pain point of reducing the paper as well. There's a lot of thing that I think Nikhil mentioned about too much of paper and too much of cost at savings. All these three can be addressed using the supplier digital supplier network, right? That's an end of demo from my side. So if you go back to slides, let me stop sharing. Yeah, so we ran through all the processes from creating the purchase orders till payment advice, right? So next, move to the next slide. Priyanka, you want to do a poll?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to extend the deepest appreciation for your experts and insights. They were valuable to the audience. So to all the speakers, yes. So thank you so much. And we'll run a quick poll for all the attendees. So yes, you can see the second poll on your screens. How many vendors do you have? Kindly make your choices.
So as Nikhil mentioned, so we have 8 million on the network globally and 6 lakhs in India. Right? There are so many vendors available on the network already. We will go to the next slide by the time we get answers.
Yeah, the last question we have here. Which ERP do you use? Kindly make your choices for this as well. Thank you, everyone.
We
Thanks,
can move on
everyone.
to the next
Yeah,
slide.
please to the speakers. Thank you.
Move to the next slide.
Venkat, you can move on to the next slide. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So from the benefits perspective, we already been talking about the benefits of digital supplier network over the demo as well. Just to conclude, so it gives the visibility, as you said, overall order visibility, both from a supplier perspective as well as from an buyer's perspective. You can do a material tracking as well. And then from a process efficiency, as you've seen, everything is automated, right? From an order perspective, order collaboration perspective, invoice perspective, everything has been automated, right? So we have 120 plus business rules, as I mentioned. We have 70 plus process documents that can be automated. So you are increasing the process efficiency effectively, right? E-invoicing and payment support, as we mentioned, IRN can be integrated with the digital supplier network. So as a part of taxing problems, I think that issue has been addressed, right? So accuracy of invoices, you can manage the invoice errors effectively even before submitting, right? Fewer duplicate payments, as you see, all the orders are matched to the invoices and the receipts, and suppliers will also have a visibility of status of their invoice and payment objects, right? So again, the last one, scale your business, which basically with the help of all these three, supplier visibility, efficiency, and invoicing, definitely you're going to scale your business by using this digital supplier network, by automating your entire order to pay processes, right? So those are some of the benefits of using SAP Digital Supplier Network. Yeah, next slide. Thank you so much. I hope it was insightful, and thank you so much again for providing the opportunity to speak here. Thank you. Kaushik or Amit, over to you.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, thank you so much. We have the question and answer session, and thanks for the speakers and panelists to address many of them in the chat and question and answer section.
But I think we can unmute a couple of users as we have some time. I can see a couple of questions that are dropped into the chat, into the question and answer session. So we know Matthew is requesting, is it a customization request, or we can create it ourselves? So there is whatever myself and Nick showcased, all of them are standardly available, and there is no customization as per the standard processes that we showcased. So everything can be configured in SAP Ariba, and it can be utilized without any customization request or any customization changes from Ariba side.
Right. There was another question about whether Ariba network can integrate with to validate the bank account at the time of supplier registration. So the quick answer is yes. Ariba provides bank account validation APIs, which can validate the bank accounts at the point of registration in real time, helping ensuring we de-risk and avoid fraudulent suppliers being registered on network. That was one of the questions.
Also, I can see a couple of questions coming in from Ravindra Yadav. Thank you for posting those questions. So the first question is, can this process be country specific? Yes, it can be. We did multiple implementations in different regions of the world, and we did deploy in their currencies, in their local language, like Germany, for example. And the cost to implement this process, to know more about this product and more about the implementation time and the cost, we can definitely set up different sessions, particularly, right, Amit?
Yes, we can understand a bit more about your
requirement and correct.
Yes.
The prerequisites, there are no specific prerequisites as coming into this. If we are looking for those two modules, AmDhan can arrange discussions with SAP, and we can take this forward for the purchase of these particular modules. Is the suppliers qualified? from Ariba network? Yes, because as Nikhil posted for one of the question, we do have 6 lakh suppliers from India, and all these suppliers are in Ariba network to support multiple organizations. So they are already doing that process, this all bidding and the Ariba sourcing, and also this DSN process, the purchase order creation, invoicing creations. All this is happening in their current organization, and they are being qualified by topmost companies, whoever is procuring the materials from them. So yes, they are qualified suppliers. And new vendor in Ariba / ERP difference. So in ERP, yes, go on, Amit.
Yeah, I think I probably can take that one. So the new vendor onboarding sort of happens or can be enabled in from Ariba network to Ariba, and then from Ariba as a buyer you can validate the information, qualify the vendor, and then push the information to ERP. So there is a standard out-of-box integration for Ariba network to ECC S/4HANA, and can be integrated with non-SAP ERP as well. So that's probably summarizing that particular question. There are a couple of next question. Digital Supplier Network. I think Ariba network or vendor portal also is called as Digital Supplier Network, which essentially is a vendor portal which we have just seen in the demo. Do supplier need to register for a company and product category? Do you want to take that, Kaushik?
Yes. So this exactly, the supplier has to register for that company and also the product category. And where I showcased in Ariba sourcing to create a new participant, which is not available in our ERP system, we can customize that particular request, saying that, okay, what is submit some certificates and also what is your GST number or what is PAN number. And by doing that, they can answer those. Also, when they are registering to supplier portal, which is the vendor portal, they do need to select which product or category that they are doing the business, and which services they are providing. So the registration is a mandatory for all the vendors, but it's only a couple of steps which I explained, which the supplier kit is going to help them out without any manual training is required. Sure, we'll share the YouTube video file link for sure. I see one more query here. Your view on CVC DIT of GUI for SAP Ariba network. Shall we unmute Ravi Kumar to know a little bit more?
Yes, sure.
Yes, please. But in the meantime, if anyone want to answer, please. Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, Ravi Kumarji, can you please?
Yeah, actually, we have received one email communication from SAP that SAP Ariba network is not compliant with the CVC DIT guideline of GUI. So, being in the government organizations, we are really concerned about this. So, do you have any view on that?
I would have to take this offline with you, Rikmaji, but we'll get back to you with the answer to this. Unless Nikhil and Ashok, you have any views on this?
No, I'm not aware about this.
Yeah. We'll get back to you with more details on this one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ravi.
And then there is also a question about Ariba work for services and software. Thank you, Ashok, for answering that question. It's a good question. We haven't touched about services, but yes, the quick answer is Ariba supports material and services, both scenarios, is industry agnostic. Thanks for answering that one, Ashok. Just scanning through a few more questions.
I can see Rajesh, one question, a new question dropped in the question and answers. How is it solid licensed as per user or whole package? Nikhil, you want to take this up?
I think we probably lost him.
Yeah.
It's again, this is something based on the requirements that you may have. There are some different options, but we can have a conversation, offline conversation with you, understanding your requirements, and then get back to you on that one. Thank you, Rajji.
Just want to answer.
Sure.
I mean, some of them are from a spend perspective. Some of the modules are from a user perspective, right? So it depends on which module you are going to buy. Like if it's a buying, it's based on spend. If it's a sourcing, it's based on users. So different modules have a different criteria from a licensing perspective, right? And the renewal cost, I think once that has to be discussed with the sales team. Probably Nikhil would be a right person to answer those. But if you get in touch with AmDhan team or SAP sales team in person, I think they should be able to help you with these things. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nikhil.
There is also a question which is repeated quite a few times about a vendor duplication check when at the point of vendor registration. So I'll probably briefly touch upon that. Yes, there is a duplication check in at the point of vendor registration, and this out of box is available on the company name, DUNS number, vendor email, and it also includes vendor address and contact information as well. If there's a custom requirement, that can also be further enabled, but generally these are the things which are coming out of box for checking duplicates.
Thank you, Amit. Please move on to the next slide. I think, yeah. So that's all for today. Priyanka.
Yes, thank you so much for answering the questions and for the valuable insight about Ariba. Thank you for taking time to share your knowledge and wisdom with us. Your commitment to educate is greatly appreciated. Thank you to all the speakers. Before we wind up, deep gratitude to the attendees as well. Thank you so much for joining for this webinar. We appreciate your participation, your questions and comments, added value to the discussion, definitely. Once again, thank you, everyone.
And just to add, Priyanka, we'll share the recording and the slide pack or email to all that.
We will definitely get back to the attendees. We'll be connected with them from AmDhan. Thank you, SAP team.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Have a great day. Cheers.